Everybody wants to be a solar installer until it's snowing. Welcome to our first video of 2025. I've been really excited about filming this one. It's using my favourite products, which is the SolarEdge. We've got an 8 kilowatt home hub inverter, backup interface, and a 10 kilowatt SolarEdge battery. It's going on 3 orientations of the house. Let's go see what the lads are up to. Cue the intro. So this is where we're going to be mounting the equipment. Battery over on this wall here. We're going to be putting a new Renewables DB. Up here somewhere a backup interface and the inverter. Board's going to go in here. Just gives it a nice little surface to mount things on and to work with. It doesn't need it, but it looks good. I've done the marking and the measuring. And as always, it needs checking by Matt. So let's see if it fits. So there's our incoming supply, TNS system. We need to back it up with a parallel earth rod. So let's go and find how we can get in and out. So we're actually down working in the cellar. So we need to find a route A for the DC cable and B for an earth rod. That's not a bad location. Well, we can see this from inside the cellar actually, and that will then get us up into the soffits and into the roof space. Yeah, there's a bit of a run under the cellar, but I think that'll be fine. We're going to use PV Ultra. That'll be clipped nice and neat. I'll go show you the roof actually. So most inverters have 2, at most 3 MPPTs, and they're maximum power point trackers. And that's really the input for the solar DC. With the SolarEdge, because it has the optimizers underneath each panel, it means we can install them on multiple orientations because the MPPTs are panel level monitoring. One of the beauties with SolarEdge is, unlike a conventional string system, it allows you to let every panel work to its own maximum. Because it's got the panel level MPPTs, shading doesn't really affect the whole array, it only affects the panels that have shading on. So that's going to be one array there and another array here. Until we get on the roof, we don't always know exactly how many panels are going to fit. So this was down for a 15 panel system. Looks like we're only going to be able to get 12 panels on the actual roof. We do just need to wait for the snow to clear off. So yeah, not a great start to the day or the year. So from outside, this was that window hatch we can see. Obviously we know where damp course is and we know where above ground level is. So we often get asked with backup interface or backup gateways why we need to install a parallel earth rod. In the UK, a lot of our earthing arrangements are somewhere down the line, neutral earth combined at the transformer, meaning that the neutral circuit is actually being our earth path back, whether that's on a TNS or TNCS. At some point down that circuit they are combined. So what that means is if the electricity board disconnected you intentionally, took away that neutral, and we didn't have this device, then you would lose your earthing arrangements as well. So that's called an open device or an open neutral. Hence why we put a parallel earth rod in. So the house does have its own earthing arrangements, so it still can be protected. In this device and in most devices that offer the off-grid, the neutrals are separated inside the device as well. So here we've got the grid neutral coming in, and then the load neutral to all of the properties. And that's basically the backup interface for the SolarEdge. Fundamentally, it's just a big contactor switch. And this is where we are going to split the tail. So out of this isolator, we'll have a grid supply in, and then out of that a grid supply out. So we're putting our own Renewables DB in as well. So we will probably Henley block that. We say centre this wall, I reckon, for the battery, yeah? 50 inches to the top. I am so bad at maths. This is a 8 kilowatt inverter. We did apply for a 6 kilowatt SolarEdge inverter and a 6 kilowatt GiveNG all-in-one, but the DNO refused 12 kilowatt on site. I do like keeping the SolarEdge all the same, but it is just a touch slow, the changeover, which we'll show you in a bit. Other brands are a bit faster, aren't they, Matt?
Tesla's instantaneous.
Yeah, Tesla's very fast. One of the issues I find with the Give Energy, it's actually got a 30 milliamp RCD inside the gateway. So if you've got earth leakage combined of more than 30 milliamp, even if you've got individual RCBOs,
so it's like
you're going to trip the RCD.
Like main RCD
up front, yeah. 30 milliamp. So really that wants to be configurable to, you know, like 100 milliamp or something. Yeah. So part of the job is actually figuring out what to put where, which takes a lot of the time up, rather than just throwing it on. Unless you was to put a double Henley block up on the board.
I know, yeah, that's what I'm thinking. There's no space there for it either, really. Unless you get rid of that
Move that up.
Yeah, get rid of the chine. I think I might bring some tails down and just have a look, see which is the best way. I think if we were to swap them over, you're not gaining much. It basically just means that there's one less set of tails passing on this side. The only concern is when all these tails are in, is the DC is going to come in on this side as well. Yeah. And then we need to get the DC over back to the battery as well.
It's going to be crowded there.
4 DC cables as well as 6 sets of tails.
Yeah.
I think it'll be alright. Those DC cables, they're thin anyway, aren't they? And they'll strip back and you literally be able to like...
Unless you was to pull the Henley blocks on the vertical trunking.
Yeah, up here.
Up here something.
Yeah, I think that's better actually. Because then it's just one set in, one set back up, and one set to there. So there's less here than there. It takes one set away from the main run, doesn't it? Yeah. Because there's that extra bit of space. Let's do that then.
Cool. Battery cables are labelled up. Nick's pre-done all of the holes for us here. They're going to come up there. And that'll look tidy, that. DC strings, data, AC, happy days. So one thing I really love about, well, there's a few things I really love about the SolarEdge battery. It has a built-in fire extinguisher. It's actually very, very safe battery. It can go indoors or outdoors. And one of the huge advantages of this battery in comparison to other brands is it's a high voltage battery. So the cables are running around about 400 volts, meaning that the ampage is lower. So if you think about a car battery, 12 volts, you go to jump start a car, you're using jump leads, which are probably what, maybe 25, 35 mil tri-rated cable. That's because the amps are a lot higher. And similarly, when we use other brands of batteries, sort of the Give Energies, the Foxes, they come with pre-terminated cables, probably anywhere between 16 and 35 mil cable. And they can be running at 48 volts, but around about 100 amps. So with this, the amps are lower, meaning we can run it in standard solar PV cable. This is 6 mil solar PV cable. We have greater flexibility with our installation. So the inverter which we have here doesn't necessarily need to be in the same location as the battery. The pre-manufactured leads you get with other brands means that the inverter and the batteries have to go together. So if you're struggling for space, it can be quite challenging. Whereas with the SolarEdge, we can actually put this 50 meters away from the inverter, meaning if space was an issue, that could be mounted outside, the inverter could be mounted inside, and we'll just cable between the two. I think when you're designing a system, those are the things you need to be looking at as well. So cost comes into it, but also where your equipment goes, how it interacts in your home. We will earth the battery back to the MET. With this, we're not going to use the RS485 connection, which is the data, because the inverter's actually got the home hub aerial. That's got a home hub aerial. They'll just talk to each other. They're in close proximity, and that's how we'll connect that. So you can see we're sort of making progress. It's been like a one-man band with Matt not doing much. I don't think people realise how much time and effort goes into just this, just to make it look neat. That's us done for today. Not a fantastic day for outdoor work, so the roof's not been touched. Most of the AC side's done. Tomorrow I'll get the earth rod in and we will get the DC cable up to the loft. So I'm just off to a call out now. Back in the morning. Here we are. The snow's not let up. In fact, it's turned to ice. So another day of us not doing the roof. But we are going to get the electrics finished today. We're going to get the power to the inverter. We're going to get the backup gateway connected, the battery all connected. One of the considerations we're on with this morning is how and where to bring the DC out and the earthing out. There's a little bit of a a raised exit around the corner, which I shown yesterday, but that increases the cable run on the inside, and there's some awkward pipes, bends, cables to get around. So logistically inside, it's a bit of a nightmare. So we're thinking now come out of the right hand side, which is closest to where we're working. That'll get the DC up. But when we're looking at putting the earth rod in, we want to be staying away from, you know, the flags. We don't want to be lifting flags. We certainly don't want to be drilling through, because we're not going to get a good reading. We want to stay away from all of this concrete. But if we can get a rod out on the wall here, we've got options to use a bit of conduit, get into an earth box. We can always bring it a bit further out here, so we've got space to stay away from the footings of the building. There's no surfaces coming in this way. Somewhere around here works a lot better. I can definitely hear the drill going, so it should pop out of here anytime soon. Pretty much guarantee we're going to blow a brick as well, so we're probably going to have to repair that and box over it. Ideally we could have drilled outside in, but there's that many pipes and cables clipped down there, it's just not worth the risk. So this is where we've come out. I can live with that, Nick. You know, it has blown the brick as we thought, but we'll box over that and get it all mortared and sealed up and everything else. Earth rods. When we were drilling, we were really conscious that we didn't want to come below ground level, because moisture will always find its way in, and B, we didn't want to breach the damp proof as well. I think that's a good little location. Then we'll get the earth in now and go from there. Oh, I can see right down. That's going to be a beauty, that. One of the best bits of equipment I've ever bought is this Rontec cable drum holder. Absolutely fantastic. It's not cheap. Well, I've had 100 meters of 25mm 3-core on that. Just means now as well, whoever's grabbing this from the other end can just pull off exactly what they need. Look at that. Although it would be a little bit better if it had gears in it, just to slow it down, because it can uncoil a bit sometimes. I said this, or I've said this before, we're not always going to be the cheapest, but what we are is considerate. So we try and think the project through fully. Obviously we want to make sure that the customer's house still resembles their house and we're not just lashing things in. But also the products and the materials we use, I like to think we spend a little bit more money on those sort of stuff. Functionality wise probably doesn't make any difference, but aesthetics, tidiness, everything else, it's just so much better. Like, you know, we're using fireboard to mount the equipment on. That's like 58 quid a sheet. Some more EV Ultra cable, which is the Doncaster cable, high tough, with the data cable running through it. We get it in 100 meter drums, and that's 750 quid. So when we're quoting jobs, and we are a little bit more expensive, it's because we're using products like that, rather than just using armoured cable and then running a data and cable tying it to the armoured, which looks rubbish. Earth rods, we're using the thicker earth rods rather than the thinner earth rods, just so we've got a better reading. Yeah, I feel like everything's just done right, rather than being a sales company just to shift boxes. That's our take on it anyway. Fundamentally, we're all tradespeople, all got some sort of little bit of passion for the industry. We want to make sure that what we're doing is right, is to the best of our ability. We are always improving as we go, and that's just the nature of things. Right, anyway, that's that cable in. We can now get on with putting the earth rod in, which sometimes can be a pain. It's sometimes be pretty hard work. Sometimes it can be a piece of cake. I'll go and get a coupler, because I think that went in a bit easy, that. We'll bang another one on. We were just discussing off camera actually, that rotary isolator there is a 40 amp isolator. It's the same as the 32, the 20 amps, you know, all the same sort of size. It's an MCG. Who in the right mind thought that was enough space to terminate any sort of cable? So if that's a 40 amp, you know, that's a 10mm cable. Just how and why? Why not make them bigger?
It's tight like tiger.
So somewhere around right here is where the entry for the DC cable's going to go. We're going to try and miss the light, miss the satellite, so we can get a nice sweep straight up into the loft space. Here's our hole where our PV Ultra's going through. So this is just another one of those things. Again, we try and do a little bit differently. So this is the Doncaster PV Ultra cable. You've seen it many a times, everything else. It's a great solution when you need it. It's got the strings we need, the positive and negative, identified, coloured up, danger warning notification printed on it. It's in a high tough, so it means we don't have to put it in any containment. Yes, outside we could have used conduit and standard DC cable, which I think looks neater, and I prefer that where possible. But internally, because we've got things to go around, up and over, and a bit of cabling, and a bit of this, that and the other, this is fantastic because it does the containment solution for you, rather than trying to have to battle. And you see other companies might just clip cables, and it does look a bit cheap. It's double insulated once it's stripped back as well. Yeah, great solution. Very expensive, but great solution, I think. So that's us clipped up using the spit gun. Saves a bit of time. We're going to go in through the soffit into the loft space and then come back out through a Genius flashing. I think that's a better way rather than going over the gutter. I always think that's the last resort, really. Right, I'm going to cut this with plenty on it. Despite the fact it's like £7 a metre. I'd rather be looking at it than looking for it. Watch your noggin, this is going to come down now. Ready? DC cable's ready to go into the loft space. Happy days, there's 2 big jobs done for today. Okay, so that's me pretty much done today on this site. Matt and Nick are still here just finishing off the last little bits of electrics, getting the DC cable inside all clipped up and nicely done. We're going to commission the AC side, get the battery and the backup interface working. Snow's just really halted play this week. Join us for day 3. So the lads are on with panelling now. That's going to take them the rest of the day. The snow's obviously cleared off, which has helped big time. We've got the Genius flashing kit on this system. Big fan of that product. That's on. Panels are starting to go on over here, so they'll all get leveled out and put on. Let's take a look around the back. Again, the back of the roof has the Genius flashing kit. So they're all done, ready for the rail to be installed. So that's us pretty much done with this SolarEdge system. Obviously we've got the 8 kilowatt SolarEdge home hub inverter, the backup interface, renewables consumer unit, and we've had to put a TP-Link in for the internet connectivity. The router's on the other side of the house. It's a concrete cellar, so we can't get any data through to it. So we're connected to the internet. There's a couple more things we need to do, a couple of stickers, but what I want to show you is backup interface and how that functions. So obviously we've got a light on, we've got an audible, which I'll switch on in a second. I'm going to knock the power off and you'll see how fast the changeover before the light and the audible comes back on. So let's get the beeping of the audible. So you can hear that's now, we have power at this socket. We also have the lights on. Let's knock off the power and see how fast the backup interface connects. Audible's back on, lights back on. So that was about 5 seconds. As I've said before, it's not the fastest of changeover switches. If you compare it to the Tesla Powerwall 3, that is rapid. We're currently running off grid at the minute, just on what's on the battery. The solar panels aren't even plugged in, so this is just pure battery power. That's us done. The guys are just putting the bird blocker around the panels now. Let me know what you think about the system and what your thoughts on the backup interface are. Till next time, join us again.